It was interesting how the Mind Flayer could turn into bone chunks and all and form up into a Voltron-like situation, which is just crazy, man.
Meatwad Voltron.
He's a Meatwad Voltron, exactly. Broadcasting live from inside the power band, this is The Blob. In this episode, everybody dies. I'm the Wolverine, along with There He Goes and Algorithm. Welcome.
What's going on, guys?
Hey, everyone.
Hey, bros.
Dude.
Starring Jeff Spicoli as Billy.
Yeah, he kind of has that Fast Times vibe.
Totally.
I mean, really only that he's a surfer, because like temperament-wise, if you take Spicoli and you put him right next to Billy, they couldn't be more different. You know, like Spicoli's like all about eating za, doing nothing, and getting more baked. And then Billy is like intensity personified on two legs. Like he's about to explode into a rage fest like at any moment. You know, that's how I feel when I'm watching Billy on screen.
Yeah, totally. But if you put Spicoli next to Billy, you're right. But if you put Sean Penn next to Billy, they're pretty similar. They're both grumpy little dicks.
Ooh, whoa. I like what you did there, dude. Nice. Very cool.
See that.
You like it? You like it?
Like it a lot. Keep it up, guy. You're moving right up the ladder of this company, man. And I'm telling you, in no time, you're going to be VP of sales.
Yeah, I just got to remember to put the cover sheet on the TPS reports.
Oh, you son of a bitch.
Yeah, we're going to have to go ahead and ask you to come in on Sunday too.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Okay. So, Peter
Tingle.
Peter Tingle.
Oh, my God. Folks, as you can tell, we're having a lot of trouble launching this episode. So, like I was trying to say in the beginning of the show, folks, we're talking about Stranger Things 3 this week, since we covered 1 and 2 last week.
Yeah, dog.
Where do we want to start off, gang?
The Russians are coming.
The Russians are coming, and let's start there. Chad, go.
Yeah, high level. As I mentioned last week, when I watched season 2 the first time, I kind of didn't really like it as much as season 1. I think your point, Kev, about season 1 kind of being the first go-round where you're introduced, it was never going to be topped anyways. So I think I kind of hit that vibe a bit more on my second watch of season 2. I liked it a lot more on the second watch.
Yeah.
And so season 3 for me, like, while I was watching it, I was kind of like, what the fuck? And then like 5 minutes later, I was like, you know what? I'm on board. This is ridiculous. Let's do this. And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it quite a bit.
How could you not? Yeah.
I did think it was going to be a lot different, you know, in terms of where I thought the plot was going to go. But the fact that it just went balls to the wall, 80s, you know, shopping mall, secret Russian base, Terminator thing, like,
oh my God.
It was pretty funny.
Oh my God, yes.
Yeah.
There's so many things to talk about this season. Yeah. Go ahead, Ben.
The guys I got a girlfriend at camp. Oh, really?
Nice one.
Dude. Really. She's so awesome. You guys are going to love her.
Oh, yeah.
She's like Phoebe Cates, but hotter.
Yeah, Phoebe Cates, but hotter. Totally.
Oh, man.
That was the best George Glass moment. Like, it was so George Glass. I was like, wow, this is great.
We've all been there. We've all either met someone or gotten the random summer camp girlfriend, or not.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
Even though George Glass wasn't 80s, meaning the Brady Bunch wasn't 80s, like, that was such a George Glass moment. You know what I mean? Like, the whole, like, no, I mean, she's real.
Yeah, totally.
You know,
yeah.
she's the smartest girl in Utah. Like, you know, the whole thing. I mean, he was just short of like calling the operator like Jan did on the Brady Bunch and being like, oh, call me at 9. Can you call this number at 9 p.m., operator? You know what I mean? So she can pick up the phone and be like, oh, hi, George.
Oh, the fucking Brady Bunch.
Yeah. Let's not digress into that.
Let's not do that. But I liked how the summer camp Phoebe Cates' girlfriend was kind of the conclusion to the first episode. Like, they trudge all the way up to the top of the hill and set up, you know, the Cerebro radio, and he's trying to get a hold of her, and they're all just like, bullshit. Like, it was a kind of a great, lighthearted intro episode.
It was, but then it was also a great, that was the sort of the bookend of the entire season, was like, at the end, it was like, when things can't get any more dire, and it's like they need some ultimate thing. Who are you going to call? The girlfriend that everybody is convinced does not exist at this point in episode 8. Now she's going to appear singing the Neverending Story song among, of all things.
Freaking amazing.
Oh my God, man. Listening to the two of those two belt that out was just incredible, man.
And that's how we're going to conclude this episode, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to sing the theme song to the Neverending Story. So get ready. Get your ears ready for a treat.
That's right. 3 grown men singing the Neverending Story.
In harmony.
If we could only get together and sing that would just be killer to throw in this episode.
That's how you grow a show.
That's how you get ratings, man. Climb that iTunes ladder.
I loved how when the Neverending Story song started, I thought they were only going to do like 1 or 2 sentences. And then it like split screens and they just go balls to the wall. And it was all of a sudden, it was like Aladdin and Jasmine on a fucking magic carpet ride. And you're just like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh my, totally. I know, right? It was great.
Yeah, it's almost a little cringy.
But that's the brilliance of it.
But I've kind of like, I've watched the season twice and then kind of like scrubbed through a couple of episodes just to remind myself. And every time I watch that scene, I just crack up now. So I think they really nailed it.
But I think, Ben, like the cringy part, that's like the brilliance of the levels of deep 80s that they go in this show. You know what I mean? Like they even added like a song that was well sung from a total nerded out film that we all love from the 80s. And
in split screen.
Oh no! Don't get me wrong. It was incredible, but yeah, it was a little like Chad said. Like you thought they were just going to sing a couple lines and then they just keep going. And you're like, okay, they're going to do the whole thing. All right, okay.
But then it like cuts to the cast and they're all just like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
like
right.
Bald Eagle and Hopper and Joyce like. Bald Eagle's got like his head rested against a concrete wall in a Russian uniform full of like bloody bullet holes. Just like, come on, guys.
Totally. Dusty Bun, man.
Dusty Bun.
So
what did you guys think? What was your initial reactions to like the Russian plot and kind of how it all kind of took off in the beginning of the season? Because it was quite a departure from some of the other stuff they've done in the other seasons and kind of not.
I think it was... it totally fits. I mean, and it totally fits the 80s thing. I mean, I definitely remember like kind of, I mean, I was really young, but I knew that the Cold War was sort of a thing and,
Yep.
And all of that was going on. And I was definitely afraid of it. So it's, and that was reflected in a lot of movies at the time as well. Like, even considering something like Red Dawn, so yeah, that whole Red Scare thing, I think it fits really well with everything else that's going on.
This is a tiny digression, but my mom owned an art gallery when I was growing up, and she found this Russian artist who painted like icons, like religious icons, and they're really quite amazing historical kind of Russian art, a historical Russian art form, and they like painted with like precious gems crushed up in gold and stuff. And so they used to like, because of the Communist Party not allowing religion, they used to cut these things up and like smuggle them out of the country. And so she smuggled a bunch of these icons out of the country and got asylum in America with their family.
Wow.
And they ended up staying with us for a little while, just like,
oh wow, I
don't know, visiting or something. And my mom was talking about how when she was a little girl in the 50s, how like she would be driving outside of New Bedford in like farm country, like she would be driving in the school bus and like terrified that Russians were going to come out of the woods and like kidnap her and stuff. Like that was how terrifying.
Oh my God.
The Cold War and the Russians were at that point. And we were like sitting at the dinner table with these Russians and they were saying the same thing. Like they would be like scared the Americans were going to jump out and grab them and stuff. So like, it was such a crazy
wow.
like time period. And I feel like they caught the tail end of that with how silly all the 80s treated the Russians being like the biggest, baddest enemy that you could possibly have.
Right, totally.
Right, yeah. I distinctly remember there being a time where, when things started to show out, it was kind of like, oh yeah, well, they're just people too, and we're all like everybody's afraid of the same thing and nobody wants to do this shit. So like we're not going to do it, you know. But it was real, you know, back in the day.
Oh my God, it was totally real. And as usual, I agree with Jarhigo's synopsis, his answer. Like it's such a part of the DNA of the 80s, man, you know?
Yeah.
For any of the folks at home and for the two of you, if you have not watched the television program The Americans that originally ran on FX, season 6 just wrapped up a year or two ago. I've watched seasons 1 through 5. It is so good. It's one of those like best shows that nobody watched. Like, the critics were raving up and down about it. And my partner on my other podcast, she told me to watch it, and it does not disappoint. You want to talk about 80s nostalgia? It's the next best thing to Stranger Things. And it was doing it before Stranger Things. Mm-hmm. It's so good.
Yeah, cool.
So absolutely check it out.
I've heard about it. I've just never gotten around to it.
Yeah, I highly recommend it. So, you know, it's the whole Russian thing is just, it. Like I said, part of the DNA of the 80s. Fit perfectly with the story. I mean, look, when you're watching something like this, like Stranger Things, it's structured like a great 80s popcorn munching movie. Like it's sort of totally unbelievable, you know, fantasy in many ways. And like, you know, so it's like the Russians built a secret base underneath the Cod Mall in Hawkins, Indiana, and they're secretly trying to reopen the gate. Totally.
Why not?
Dude. I'm all for it. I'm on board.
It's almost like it's an amusement park ride.
Oh yeah, I could see that.
Sure,
I could see that.
It's a roller coaster.
So that's what I think about that. I mean, my God, like, and while we're on this, like, I'll talk about this right now because this is something I wanted to talk about. One thing I loved was they had a very, I don't know, maybe it wasn't subtle, but I thought it was a subtle Terminator thing going on with that one bad guy. Okay, right, fine. It wasn't subtle with that one baddie who's hunting him down and keeps beating the crap out of Hopper all the time. And that guy was like the perfect amalgam of like evil Russian and Schwarzenegger.
Yeah.
You know, like he kind of had some of the same specs as Schwarzenegger. They even had like similar, like sort of a similar style of music when they showed him like walking, like looking for somebody as that you would see in Terminator 1 or Terminator 2. Like I love that, man. It was really great, really subtle. It was really well done. At least like the music and the touches were subtle. Like, I mean, the presence of the guy, the actor was not subtle, obviously. I mean, the guy definitely had a nice like Schwarzenegger Terminator throwback thing going on. I thought that was really cool. I really liked that character.
Yeah, it's like a cross between the Terminator and Ivan Drago.
Yeah, exactly, Ben. Exactly. That's what I was thinking when I was watching it. I was like, if Dolph Lundgren had been less like Nordic looking,
right? Yeah.
It would have been like, you know, a perfect mating of the two. But like, I don't know, it was just really great, and they had that kind of unstoppable killing machine thing going on. And then even in the House of Mirrors, when he shoots him, like, I mean, he literally pumps like 6 rounds into the guy's chest, and he goes down, and then you see the guy get up, and it's like just like in Terminator, dude. It's great.
Yeah.
So really, really great. 80s score there. Whatever.
Yeah, it was well handled. Like you said, it wasn't subtle, but because they added so many fine details to it, it kind of like buffed it into a good shine. Like it made it work, you know?
Definitely, man. And while we're on the topic of the Russians, still, we got to talk about Smirnov, man, right?
Who's that? The engineer dude?
Alexei. Yeah, Alexei.
Yeah.
He was great. He was so great. You know, the cherry slushy and like...
He was great. I don't know why I loved him so much, but like the whole like kidnapping a Russian engineer and he like wants to drink Slurpees all day just fits so perfectly with the way that, you know, kidnappees were handled in the 80s. It was always like this like Stockholm syndrome thing where they like secretly party together and like, you know, do each other's nails, you know? It's like, no, it's a kidnappee.
Right. Like all he really wanted to do was watch Looney Tunes, eat BK, and drink slushies.
I do love that, what's his name? Bald Eagle. What's that character's name? Do you remember? Murray or something?
The character's name is Murray. I think it's Murray Bauman.
That was so okay, Mr. Bum Man. We'll get to that later, but
And the actor's name is Brett Gelman, and he's a comedic actor. He's been in a bunch of stuff.
I love that they buddied up. They become quite close, and like the amusement park death of what's his name? Alexi. The amusement park death of Alexi, and how it hits Murray was I thought like really added a lot of gravity to that story choice.
Yeah.
Well, that's the beauty of the show. It's like it's soaked in 80s, and they go to great lengths to like really, throw in those little 80s nostalgic points there. The whole story is like hyper fantastical, right? Like it's so utterly unbelievable. But then the acting is like so on point, and they treat, we talked about this last week, like they treat like certain moments just so perfectly. Like when Alexi dies, like it was sad, dude, and it's like, and Murray's like, like you said, he's like really freaked out, and like it was just well done.
I saw on this topic, I saw a really interesting YouTube video that I'll link to where this guy was talking about longer form media and how, the classic antagonist, protagonist, anti-hero kind of movie structure was really challenging to break out of in a 2-hour movie, whereas now multiple episode or season shows, like they have the time and space to have your, maybe this guy's an antagonist now, or maybe he's a protagonist later. Like, like Steve, he was kind of an asshole in season 1, and then his character arc comes good in season 2. And like having the space to develop the characters, like there doesn't only have to be one main good guy and one main bad guy. There can be lots of supporting characters, and they have the time to flesh them out. Like you never would have seen an Alexi in a movie of Stranger Things, and you never would have seen him and Murray in a movie of Stranger Things. But it's awesome that they have the space to kind of do that kind of stuff.
Agreed. And certainly you certainly wouldn't have seen it as fleshed out as it was in this.
Yeah. And you probably, because it wouldn't have been fleshed out, you couldn't have done it. Like you wouldn't have given a shit about Alexi, so they probably just wouldn't even have had the character because it would have been too confusing for, an audience to pick up in 2 hours. It probably just would have been super simple, straight, normal movie plot. And like that's definitely like a strong point of the show, of the like multi-show, thing.
Yeah,
definitely. And the fact that they decided to spend time on that character, I think was a wise choice. I don't know how, but you'd end up really identifying with that character. He's like, it's like he's psyched to be kidnapped, Yeah. He's like, wait, you guys aren't going to hurt me? Okay, great. I'm just going to stay then. It's like, this is why I came to America. Let's get some Slurpees, And
then in typical Russian fashion, you expect him to be like, okay, can I defect now? Like.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Can I come hang out with you guys? So Russians, deep underground, under a shopping mall. That's pretty fucking hilarious.
It was pretty crazy. And what I didn't like was like, this show is great about always having an explanation for everything, but they did not explain how the Russians built an underground base with, according to Lucas's sister, miles of tunnels.
Yeah, that was there before season 1. Like it would have been
right
because or at least it was before season 2. Like the opening scene of the first episode is the experiment failing, and then them telling Alexi he has 1 year, and then a year later, season 3 starts. So the opening scene in the show of the failed experiment was basically at the beginning of season 2, before the American facility shuts down, and when what's his name, Paul Reiser, is in charge. Like they're like fully operational, which means they would have been constructing it like a couple of years before season 1. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah, and a couple of miles below the Hawkins National Laboratory.
Yeah. Which is kind of funny because, like, in a way, that ridiculous plot idea is very thoroughly what would have been thrown at an audience in the 80s. They'd be like, yeah, there's a base. Don't worry about it. And you're like, okay.
Yeah, sure. I mean, the Russians paid off. We should talk about Cary Elwes' character.
Dude, so stoked.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's bizarre because they would have seemingly had to start building the base before season 1 started. But I mean, the how in the show is more or less explained the way that Cary Elwes' character is like, corrupt, and he's been sort of paid off by these people, and they were probably like, as the mall was being built, they were in there at the same time or something, like that's sort of the impression that I got.
It's like just plausible enough.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I think I just want to jump back to what Chad was saying. Like you were saying that this is the type of thing that they would throw at an audience in the 80s. Agree. And it's also the kind of thing that people would actually like get paranoid and think was going to happen in the 80s, like for real. Going back to like the Red Scare thing.
Yeah. One thing I completely missed until recently was Murray in season 2 when he first is introduced. He's like, "There's Russians in Hawkins," and
exactly.
And Hopper's like, "Shut up!" But it turns out season 3 is proving him right.
I was gonna say that. I think that's the only appearance he makes in season 2. I started rewatching 2, and I got up to episode 4, and I didn't see him again. But yeah, I remember that whole thing. So anyway, yeah, great. Just the whole thing is just so over the top great, secret underground base in Indiana under the mall.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
It's something that it's like something you would fantasize about when you were a little kid, like I feel like one of the malls I used to go to, like there was like a, like you'd occasionally see like a symbol for like a fallout shelter.
Totally.
Just out and about, like you'd see like the whatever, the
hazardous waste thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like that symbol, that icon or whatever. Like, and I think one of the malls had one of those or whatever. And I was just like, what is there like, what if there's like a missile silo under this place or something, like
totally, dude.
Yeah, you used to
secret missile silo.
It's like one of those things. Like you just used to definitely used to think that way when I was a little kid.
We gotta talk about the mall, man. Holy shit, that was such an awesome way to spend a lot of money making an amazingly representative mall.
Incredible.
Oh my God! Wait, hold on. Before we dive into that, Chad, Ben, where is the closest mall to where you are in Connecticut?
Well, probably in Rhode Island, or I think the Auburn Mall was in just over the line in Massachusetts, not that far from where I grew up. But then, like the Crystal Mall came out, like probably around Stranger Things time. It was like the newest mall.
That's such a great name, the Crystal Mall.
They had this like
it is a great name.
They had this giant crystal chandelier. It's still there, I think, but they have like a giant crystal chandelier in the mall.
Now it's made out of crystal meth.
Probably. Yeah, probably.
Anyway, unnecessary digression. Please don't keep this in the show. Like, whatever.
No, this is good. I like it. Crystal Mall sounds cool and everything, but it ain't no Cape Cod Mall, I'll tell you what.
Yo, let's go to the mall.
Let's go hang out at the mall.
All the time, man.
I was deprived on Nantucket. I didn't have a mall, so we'd go to the Cape Cod Mall once or twice a year, and it was the best thing ever.
Yeah, that's a bummer because the Cape Cod Mall doesn't even have like a second story or anything. It's just like
nah. The only thing the Cape Cod Mall's got going for it is it defeated Darth Maul in a battle.
God, I'm so glad you worked that in there, dude. I'm so glad you worked that in there. And I'm so happy Jarhigo found it that funny.
I love it.
Gonna turn into the Cape Cod Mall. What was it?
I don't think he even knows the genesis of that comment, dude. So
no, you got to explain that one. That's just too good to pass up.
All right, you don't have to. Yeah, but I think it's probably way too like nerd deep personal to bother putting in the show. But
that's the best part of the show is when we nerd out on old lore. You have to tell the story.
Oh God! All right. Anyway, you remember? I don't know. There was a guy on Nantucket. I'm not gonna say who it was. Anyway, we used to hang out all the time, and like this is like way back when I first moved there, at like early 2000s. I don't know where we were, and I'm like, we're standing in line somewhere. It's crowded, and I turned around. I was like, and we were starting to complain about like how annoying it was, like it was so crowded. And I was like, I'm starting to get pissed. It was, of course, around the time the Phantom Menace came out and the prequel trilogy. So I said, I was like, man, I'm getting pissed. I'm gonna start turning into Darth Maul. And without missing a beat, he says, I'm gonna start turning into the Cape Cod Mall. I started laughing so hard.
Oh, it's so good.
It was one of the funniest things I've ever heard, man. And the timing was so flawless.
Dude, like that legit is one of the funniest things I've ever heard in my life.
Oh my God, that's fucking great.
It was really, really good.
Just the fact that he didn't even have to think about it. Like that's one of the best one-liners I've ever heard.
I know. And the fact that I never connected like mall with mall. Like,
yeah, exactly.
I don't know. I just didn't do it. And it's like one of those things that like afterward, you're so pissed because you're like, God, that should have been mine. That was so good.
But as soon as he said it, I could picture you just losing your goddamn mind. Like you would have laughed so fucking hard at that.
Which I did. It was great.
It's so fucking good.
Oh my God. All right. So a challenge to our listeners, anybody that's out there that's listening, if you happen to have artistic tendencies,
Photoshop skills,
somebody needs to draw the character Cape Cod Mall.
Especially if you're a Northeast regional listener.
That's it. It makes,
oh my God,
the Cape Cod bit, like whatever, just the connection of a shopping mall to the Darth Mall is just genius.
Yeah.
For everybody involved. Like anyone listening to this that doesn't recognize the genius of that connection,
couldn't agree more,
is lost.
You're listening to the wrong show.
That's it.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Exactly.
But how good was that set, man? That mall set was just so legit. And the fact that it was like such a key component of this season was just so genius.
Dude, resplendent with giveaway car and orange Julius.
Totally, Ben. And also like neon light, like outline lighting around stuff. Like,
yep.
You notice that like everywhere it was like neon, like banding on like the edges of like walls and ceilings. And like, I was like, oh yeah, totally, man. And just the name itself, Starcourt, it's like perfect.
Yeah, it is perfect.
Right.
I loved the little like, that little scene in kind of the beginning where they do the fake out and follow the Russian guy with the duffel bag, and it turns out to be a jazzercise class. Like, it's just the fact that there's a jazzercise class in that place was just like fantastic.
Oh man, yeah, I like that. It was like the old style of mall, like the sort of like dark, brick with like weird like fountains and plants, and like people probably smoked in there, like that kind of place. Yeah.
Oh God, totally, man.
But they spent the money to make it like super clean and brand new looking now, where any mall you go into that's still up there now is just filthy and just looks like an ashtray.
Yeah.
Like you said, just looks like a dump now.
Yeah, it's got that weird like,
oh my God,
fiberglass fountain thing that like anyways.
Yeah, the centerpiece of the mall.
Yes.
My only other comment on the mall, I saw a YouTube video talking about Stranger Things, another one that I'll link to, and this dude dropped a bomb of geniusness where he was saying that the monster in season 3 is the mall. So the mall is the monster in the sense that like it's the thing that they blame at the end and cover everything up, and it's like the mall like killing downtown's businesses, and like how it's kind of like there's like a subtext to like how neighborhoods and kind of commercialism changed around that time. I thought that was absolutely genius.
Yeah, wow, that is genius. And it also echoes what's been happening, in the last like 10 to 15 years with like the Walmarts, like the super centers coming in,
Amazon,
and Amazon like wiping out. But I mean like legitimately like Walmart has gone into towns and all of a sudden just all the other businesses just disappear, man. You know?
Yeah. Because like it really is the monster, in the sense of like you take away all the fun, like amusement parkness of Stranger Things, and like they do actually like touch on, like even just the Cold War stuff, like they touch on legitimate cultural phenomena of that time and like the change that happened. So you've got like cultural change, like the Cold War stuff and the mall and stuff, and then you've got like individual growing up change where these kids grow up and towards the end they're like some kids are moving out and your first love and your first breakup and your first kiss. Like it's a really interesting, it adds so much of a dimension to the show to have those types of like life experiences and cultural experiences mixed in with like a roller coaster ride. Like the way they weave it together is just so good.
Totally. I agree. Really, really good. Really good stuff. We've talked about like 3 actual things about season 3, and then we've had like 10 digressions about bullshit like malls. So like we need to keep
but the
this...
mall's important. The mall's a big part of
I agree. No, you're right, Chad. The mall is important. I think where we started with the mall thing was not like how I intended that to happen. Asking Ben like what his mall of choice was.
It's near Highway 7. You take a left at the Sunoco.
So you take 395 south.
Exactly. It's over there on Route 2.
Digression number 6. Check.
Oh, I know, right. Okay, all right, I'll stop. All right, let's keep going, man.
Yeah, okay.
All right, Cape Cod Mall and Russian's done. Let's talk. Go over some of the stuff we liked.
Okay. I have a very small list here, so I can kick that.
Rattle them off, dude.
Okay, so let's talk about some great things. This is a small thing. It actually, I don't know why that was so funny, but
we're really dragging ass here, guys. And it's like, okay, let's talk about okay, so let me just rattle my paper and look at the list real quick.
Let me think. No. No, it's like, you know what that was like, what I just did, dude? Man. That's like when you're waiting in line at Starbucks and it's about
digression number
deep.
7.
And right, exactly. And then there's that couple in front of you, and it's like you're waiting for like 15
an hour
minutes,
and a half,
and you finally get to the counter. They get to the counter. The couple in front of you.
I don't know. What do you want, honey?
Exactly. I don't know. What do you think? I don't know. A latte? It's like, come on, man. Anyway, so it took me a little bit to figure it out, but when I finally did, I thought it was brilliant. Was the license plate on the caddy, the convertible caddy that they commandeered? Yeah, Todd Father was great. I was like, okay, nice,
dude. The Todd Father.
That scene, the Todd Father commandeering your car scene was so perfect for that era.
Totally, man. And it was just the license plate Todd Father is like perfect 80s macho, right?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Can we also talk about the fact that Hopper was like trying to channel some Magnum PI?
I was just gonna say, Benny, the next thing is you talking about Hopper.
Is what?
He was trying to channel like Tom Selleck, Magnum PI kind of a thing. He gets himself like a kind of like a Hawaiian shirt, like bright colors, and to go out on his date.
Oh my God, you're right, dude. Jesus, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
Really? You missed that? That was, as soon as I saw that and like twigged it halfway through the season, I was like, Ben is gonna love this.
This just slipped right under my nose, man. I wasn't even thinking about it, dude, until you brought it up, and now I'm like having total recall about it. Whoa! Did I just what?
Go to the Mars colonies. Digression number 8. Dude, Tom Selleck.
Chad's counting this time.
Tom Selleck, man, it was so perfect. That whole Hopper,
it was
going off of the deep end and doing the Magnum PI thing was just fucking genius.
Yeah,
really, really good.
Yeah, funny to see him like kind of a little like vulnerable and like trying to, he's like trying to do something to impress
Joyce,
right? Yes, thank you. So like, yeah, that was cool.
Yeah, and how it like didn't really work for him, but then kind of did work for him.
Right. Yeah, I think like people weren't getting it. Like it seemed like you felt like he had sort of gone like this, to these great lengths or whatever, and it was not necessarily noticed.
Yeah.
Well, it was like he was tough. He was trying to toughen himself up, and it wasn't working. Like the toughening up wasn't working, but some of the like cleverness worked out later, where he's like gives Alexi the keys and they're just like, dude, he's going to drive off. And he just like calls the whole thing and perfectly calls the situation. And it just has this like smirk, this Magnum PI kind of Sherlock Holmes smirk when he's right,
No, he goes when Alexi walks by him, he drops the keys in his hand, and then he says something, and he turns to Joyce and Murray and he goes like really, really kind of like, in an even tone, like not loudly. He just goes, what did he say? I'm sorry, what did he say? Let me just say about Hopper, like he takes a lot of shit in this season. And
Yeah.
at times I thought it was a little over the top. Like he was way more out of shape than he was in the previous season. And he just like, I felt like everybody was beating on him. Everybody was picking on him. Everybody was like, dude, you're such a blowout, like whatever. And that moment with the keys and the Slurpee was just like his big win of the season, man. Like I just loved that moment because I was like, finally, dude.
Yeah. And then his big loss was that like getting stood up at the restaurant and getting shit-faced on Chianti.
Oh my God, that was so great.
Drinking the Chianti and like calling the guy fucking Giuseppe or whatever.
Yeah, right. He called the guy Enzo. He goes, listen, Enzo. And he's like, sir,
Enzo.
my name is not Enzo.
Some just like super tall American dude. And he's like, that's not my name.
No, because the name of the restaurant was Enzo's, dude.
No, I get it. I got the joke. I got it. I just thought it was funny.
Are you sure?
I'm pretty sure.
The restaurant scene was great, and I loved it. Like he lit up a cigarette at the end, and I was like, very first, like my gut reaction is like, oh my God, he's lighting a cigarette in the restaurant, and then I was like, oh wait, that's what everybody did back then.
Yeah,
like you'd be on the edge of the non-smoking section, and right next to you would be the edge of the smoking section, and there'd be people smoking. And that would not bother you in any way.
It'd be some old lady ashing in the salad bar.
Exactly, man. Anyway, can we move on from this, or did you have
No,
more?
that's it. Other things that we liked, I got I love what they did with Steve and Robin. I really, really like that section. The Scoops Ahoy, they're in the goddamn sailor outfits for the whole season.
The ice cream shop thing was great. You know, that whole little subsect was awesome. You know, with
Erica.
Yeah, with Lucas's little sister, and like, you know, the fact that she's always like trying to like get in and get like the free samples, and she's like just like hawking on Robin. Like that whole thing was fucking hilarious.
Yeah, it was a perfect, like, you know, everybody was always trying to steal samples.
Yep.
In the 80s, and you know, I don't know, just the whole like goofy uniforms at the job, like that was a really 80s thing too. It was just like terrible, like over the top uniforms at like places like that. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and Steve, I really loved how, you know, he looks like a complete dork, and he's with this kind of like wise ass coworker Robin, and all the kids come in, all of the kids that he like saved the world with come in, and he's super stoked to see them, but Robin has no idea that they had that like bond of saving the world. So he's like, how many children are you friends with? And he's all embarrassed and stuff. Like, it's super well done.
Yeah, right. I was just gonna say that was a really choice line. That was a choice line. I thought just to stay on this for a second, I thought Lucas's sister, that just adding her in was great. Like,
oh my God,
everything about it was great.
That scene where she's like talking about capitalism, and then
yeah,
Dustin's like, blah blah blah, do it for your country. He's like, you can't spell America without Erica. I lost my shit at that one, man.
And then you know, the thing is that she was such a wise ass, and she just kept like, you know, really digging into everybody for like the entire season, man. And then we get to episode 6, which was my favorite episode in the entire season, and they're down inside the Russian base, and he's about to pull out the wiring on the fan, and they get into this conversation, and he completely schools her on why she is a nerd as well. And it's just like, I hate the whole mic drop thing, but that was a true mic drop moment. Like, it was great, you know, and she just like had nothing to say.
The My Little Pony thesis. So good. Dustin's like lisping away, and he's like, let's go over the latest episode. Applejack goes to the wizard. Ergo, you're a nerd. It's so fucking good.
And then the best part about it is that after he goes on that entire tirade, she goes, yeah, and how do you know that? And he looks at the panel, but the camera is like from the perspective of the panel, and he goes, because I am a nerd. And that's it, dude. It's like, done.
It's like, you're not wrong, kid.
Exactly.
Dude, I love Erica. She's an awesome addition. But we completely glossed over what I said, which was Robin and Steve, man. Those guys, I love I love the whole arc where they end up with the Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade back-to-back chair scene, and like they're all drugged up, and it was just such a great team up.
Yeah, totally.
Oh my god, totally, man. Just the whole their entire thing through the entire season was just great. The whole dynamic was just great. From inside the ice cream shop to the Indiana Jones moment to, you know, the end when they're finally coming down off the truth serum it was just great, man. Yeah, it was really, really great. And I thought the only thing I and this is sort of more of a question to the two of you, is like, did you feel like the two of them being drugged was drawn out too long? Like it just felt like it took like 3 episodes for the shit to wear off.
Yeah, it's not unfair. On the drugs though, the bathroom scene where, you know, the whole time you kind of think traditional new love story is going to happen, and then it goes the other way with Robin being jealous of Steve because the girl she's got a crush on is in love with him. Like that was really well handled, I think. Like I love that it didn't go the traditional love story route.
Dude, that blew me away. I almost felt like it was slightly out of place because it's like that was such a modern thing. Like that's the kind of thing you would see.
Kind of.
I think that's the kind of thing you would see now in like any TV show, you know? And it's like, I don't know. I sort of felt like it didn't fit, but I did like that it was different. Yeah.
At the same time, like the AIDS quilt and like the AIDS epidemic around that time, like it wasn't something that you talked about at school, and like the kids that were, you know, struggling with those struggles, it was pretty quiet, at least in my school. The kids that were having difficulties would just get beat up and stuff. So I can see what you mean with like the openness of her talking about it wouldn't necessarily have happened around that time, but I feel like the, you know, AIDS epidemic and kind of gay cancer and like that, it was a pretty big thing at that time. And the fact that they're
it was huge
on truth serum kind of gives it a bit of plausibility.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Look, I'm not, I shouldn't have.
I know you're not complaining about it, but I feel like it's worth the fact that they went there, even though it was a little bit modern, as you said. I love that they did it, I guess. I'm willing to give it a pass. On Robin, same with Cary Elwes, like Netflix, the one thing that Amazon has going for it is that whole like X-ray bullshit, where if you like pause it, it'll tell you who's in the scene. Yeah. And so like,
oh, I love that.
It's the best goddamn thing. And so Cary Elwes was in the scene, and I was like, is that Cary Elwes? And then like the scene would change. I'm like, oh, I'll just look it up later. And then like 8 episodes later, I still hadn't looked it up, and then I saw him in the credits, because it always changes to the next episode and you never see the credits, you know? So similarly with Robin, I was like, fuck, she looks like Uma Thurman. And then obviously figured out that she was Ethan Hawke and Uma Thurman's kid. And I was like, oh, there you go.
Yeah.
She is?
Yeah, that's Ethan Hawke and Uma Thurman's daughter.
Oh my God. Wow, you just blew my mind. That's crazy. Okay, wow. All right, I have to leave. I have to leave now.
I need to take a minute. Hang on a second. Take a sip of water. You'll be okay.
It's fine. Just, yeah. Got a paper bag handy.
All right, I have digression number 9. When I was 17, when I was when I was 20 something, I got dumped, boo-hoo. And part of my trying to kind of like pick up the pieces was I read this book about like a kung fu master that was really interesting. And I ended up Googling the guy because at the end of the book it said he lived in America. And so I ended up Googling the guy, and it turns out that he taught Tai Chi and Bagua in Boston Public Garden on weekends. And he did like a kind of like an, you know how like the Chinese do like Qigong as like a healing thing, like they're swooping their arms around and all this kind of energy shit?
Yeah.
He taught a class in Woodstock, New York. It was like a 2-day class that you could go to. So I went to that. And I swear to God, this is relevant. And at this class, there was this like hippie couple, got a husband and wife, and they were like, "Oh, you can come up and stay with us, and you know, we're one of the main people that go to that hang out with this Sifu guy, and you can stay at our house." And I was like, "Okay, cool." So I crashed at their house, and the next morning we had breakfast, and they were like, "Oh, we're just gonna go over to our friend's place. Do you want to come?" And I was like, "Yeah, no worries." And so I jump in the car with them, and I go over to this house, and it's this like beautiful kind of like Gothic-y Victorian wooden kind of hobbity New England-y house. And we go inside, and it turns out it's Uma Thurman's house. Like, it's her parents' house where she grew up.
What?
And her dad is like...
What?
Her dad is a Tibetan Buddhist monk who like, I don't know, lost his eye with cancer or something, and the whole house was covered in like Tibetan sand mandalas and like crazy like Buddhist books and stuff. And like we hung out with Uma Thurman's mom and dad in the house that she grew up in. Like she wasn't there or anything, but it was like the fucking weirdest circumstance that I've ever encountered. And let me tell you, she has a pretty cool couple of parents and like a weird one-eyed Buddhist monk dad. So
Wow.
there's digression number 9.
All right.
Dude, that's the digression to rule all digressions. Like if digressions were akin to the rings of power from Lord of the Rings, that is
That's the one ring.
That is the ring that rules them all.
You've just been waiting to tell that story.
I hadn't. I just thought about it the other day when it was like one of those like flashback moments where when I realized Robin was Uma Thurman's kid, I had this like freeze frame black and white flashback to that. I hadn't thought about it in years.
You know what, Ben? I'm going to tell you something right now that may freak you out.
Oh shit.
We originally conceived this show 2 years ago. Chad has been waiting since before we started the original episode. And Chad has been waiting since before that to drop this digressional bit of nerd bombery on us so that our minds will explode. And he has succeeded now.
Just to spite you, I'm going to cut the whole thing out of the show so no one ever hears it.
Dude, you can spite me all you want, but you cannot change the fact that this happened. And I will not forget.
That happened.
I will not forget.
Well, there you go. It's Uma Thurman's kid, everybody.
Ben, I'm not going to let you die right there because I totally got what you just dropped. And that was a nice Louis C.K. reference. Thank you very much.
That happened.
That happened.
Yeah, no, I digressed from the show to one of his stand-up routines, but yeah, that was funny.
It's so good, dude.
Anyways, yeah.
Cary Elwes, everybody.
Yeah, so Cary Elwes, I'll just quickly say about him, and then I have another good point that that's worth talking about. Cary Elwes he's a great icon from the 80s. He is an incredible underrated actor. I don't know where he's been for the last 7 or 8 years, but like I missed him. Okay. And if Cary Elwes, if you're listening, I missed you.
I love you.
And that guy is such a skilled actor, man. He played the straight man in a movie with Jim Carrey, and that film is Liar Liar, which is a really funny movie. If you're a Jim Carrey fan, or if you just like Jim Carrey movies, like it's a really good movie. And he does a brilliant job of playing the straight man to Jim Carrey's like, insane over the top, like craziness. And he not only pulls it off, he excels at it. And that in and of itself is what makes Cary Elwes great, aside from the fact that, Princess Bride, duh. So I just loved that he was in this. He was great.
He was great.
Yeah, it's sort of a continuation of the tradition of, sort of the elder statesman 80s actor, Matthew Modine in the first one and, Paul Reiser. And so, yeah, Cary Elwes. Yeah, I'm looking at, he's been in a ton of shit, dude. I always think, like, I haven't seen that dude since The Princess Bride, but he's been in a ton of shit.
Oh my God. Yes. So many things, man.
I only ever remember him from, he was Robin Hood in Men in Tights, wasn't he?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
In terms of other characters, like I wouldn't necessarily say any of the other major changes in the story with these characters between season 2 and season 3, like is as big as the ones we've already spoken about. But the Billy as the baddie in this one, I thought was interesting. And, the culmination of the whole thing with him and Max towards the end and flashing back to like why Billy's, such a broken kid and stuff was really interesting.
Yes, very interesting. I love that whole bit because he was so crazy in season 2, and I was like, this guy's got to go, man. And then I was like, oh, it's fitting that he's going to sort of be the villain for this season.
Yeah, but he starts off as like the lifeguard. That was really funny too, man. That was very 80s.
The sexy lifeguard that everybody wanted to bang. Totally.
Yeah. I wasn't big on the bit of Whiplash here, but I wasn't huge on the Mind Flayer as, whatever the fucking 80s horror movie, like The Thing or whatever it was. What was the like 80s horror movie that was like a giant blob of meat? Was that The Thing or something like that?
Are you talking to me?
I don't know. I obviously just fucking died, but just like 80s horror movies where it's like a giant blob of meat. Like, I really enjoyed the shadow monster in season 2 in terms of it being like bigger but kind of mysterious, and then it turns into like a giant shitty fucking White Castle hamburger in season 3, and I was just kind of like, didn't really do it for me.
Yeah, I guess there was some thing stuff there, because the thing was like, I don't know, it's like an alien virus or something, and it was turning people into like the 80s movie with
dude, Kurt Russell. Hello, so good.
Kurt Russell. Yeah. So it was like turning people into like creatures, like, like somebody's head would pop off and like sprout legs and like go like, skittering across the floor or whatever. So the creature effects were kind of similar now that you mention it. Yeah.
Well, what do you guys think of that, the Mind Flayer, in terms of it being a giant meat thing?
I'm trying to answer your question, but
God damn it.
Stop talking. so here's the thing. Like, it's a great amalgamation of the Blob from the 80s and the Thing, as Jarhigo mentioned a moment ago. And I thought they did a really good job with it. I get why you're kind of mad on it, but like, I thought that it was interesting how the Mind Flayer, came to prominence in season 2, and then, came up with a whole new plan to take physical form in our dimension in season 3. I was actually like, wow. Like, when I thought about that, and I thought about it like that, I was like, wow, that's pretty cool, man.
Yeah.
So
that's fair.
He came up with this whole scheme to infect all these people, right? To get them under his control, so that when he needed them, they could turn into literal blobs of human biological matter, bone chunks and all, and form up together and with him into a disgusting, gigantic Voltron-like situation, which is just crazy, man.
Meatwad Voltron.
He's a meatwad Voltron, exactly. Dude. So,
man. I was waiting for Voltron to come out.
Well, hey, man, I'm glad I was able to help you with that. I think that, yeah, I liked it. I thought it was good. It was different, and it was cool to see like a literal giant monster like running around chasing everybody. You know what I mean? And it was great to see Elle like throwing it up against the wall like a bunch of times too.
Yeah. The whole like Mind Flayer figuring out she was the one that closed the gate and trying to kill her throughout the season was. I mean, it's obvious enough, but I like that there was a bit more intelligence to the Mind Flayer. Like, it actually was thinking and trying to plot and do things instead of just being like a shadowy thing.
Right. Yeah. That's sort of becoming a character rather than a MacGuffin.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly, man. And like the whole thing where she's trying to find out like more about Billy, and in doing so, it lets the Mind Flayer know where she is. Like, oh man, I was like, wow, okay. I wanted to talk about the music for a minute.
Yeah, do it.
It's so good. Like we talked about the music last week, but I would like to reiterate that the score is so deliciously 80s with tons of just awesome synthesizer work, and like, it's so good. And it's mixed with just some of the best 80s tracks, man, and not just like popular hits from the 80s, but like
there's like B-sides and stuff.
Yeah, some B-sides, and they placed those songs at the perfect moment in the show, and it was just great, man. I just thought everything about the music, the direction, the composition, everything was just great. And I just wanted to say that. And if you guys want to throw anything else in, great. If not, fine. We don't need to spend a ton of time on it.
No, I completely agree. I don't have a lot to add to it, but I completely agree. Yeah, no, I was totally with you on the music. I remember what I was going to talk about a second ago, which was Elle losing her powers was, I think, quite a clever thing to do, because she couldn't be the great victor in this one. It couldn't be her saving the day 3 times in a row. So her losing her powers, I thought, was quite good.
Yeah, it was like Magneto losing his powers, totally.
She kind of did save the day in a way by like convincing Billy that he was Billy and not the Mind Flayer, but it wasn't her crushing the Mind Flayer. It was Billy taking one for the team. Yeah. Which, I thought it was a clever way to handle it. And it obviously opens up an interesting thing with season 4 where she has no powers.
Yeah, like, well, not only that, but like, yeah, it brings up, her having no powers in season 4, and also the buyers leaving Hawkins, and
Yeah.
Hopper's dead. I mean, it's like, where, I don't know what they're gonna do next, but
And 11 leaving as well, which I thought the buyers leaving would have been okay, but then 11 jumps in.
Yeah.
no, she's leaving with the buyers, dude.
Yeah, it's kind of odd. I mean, I don't think it's like the end of the world and like, holy shit, what a bad move, but it was just kind of like, huh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
No, it's not, dude, because like the letter and like Hopper and Joyce's relationship, and like, it makes perfect sense. Joyce is taking care of her.
Oh, it totally does. And in the first season, at the end of the first season, you're like, if I was them, I'd get the fuck out of that town. So like, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just don't know where they're going to go with the third, fourth.
Anybody got any thoughts about Hopper?
The only thought I've got is I want to reiterate my previous comment where I'm sick of post-credit scenes that change what you just watched, like insinuating that Hopper's still alive in that post-credits thing.
Wait, what?
Oh, you didn't watch it?
Wait, remind me of what it was.
Okay, best of my memory here. They do a post-credit scene where they're in we'll assume Russia, or somewhere in the Soviet Union, and they basically they have like they feed a prisoner to one of the gorgonettes. as the
Rockettes.
the gorgonettes. I like it.
Yeah, one of the fucking flower faces. So there was I didn't actually pick anything up specifically having anything to do with Hopper there, but
yes, I remember it now. I remember it. But he says no, leave the American.
Yeah. They're choosing the prisoner to feed to him, and he says not the American.
Okay.
Yeah. Exactly. Okay, now I remember it. Yep.
So, like, it insinuates that it's Hopper. I mean, the Hopper death, I would have, as much as I hate to say it, I would have preferred for Hopper to, if they're going to kill him off. None of this, like, double back, they're actually alive bullshit. They've already done it with 11 in season 1.
No, dude, you're thinking too much. This is like this is what the show makes it this is what makes it great. Is it that they do things like this, these over the top, like hyper fantastical things? It's like the next obvious step is to bring Hopper back, and he's stuck in a Russian prison, dude. Come on.
Yeah.
That's fair, but I guess the surrounding every other show doing it too much makes me kind of sick of it. But like, I hear you. You're right.
But they can't kill Hopper off, man. Come on.
Yeah.
They just can't.
Can't, dude. You cannot kill Hopper off. You're
They
right.
just can't.
Ben.
Well, I guess that's what I'm saying, is that they shouldn't have killed Hopper off, period. Like, it's just...
Yeah, I get it.
Dude, it's like taking Magnum out of Magnum. You can't do it.
Yeah. I mean, was there ever a case in like any of those shows like Magnum PI where Magnum dies at the end of the episode, and then the next episode like, just kidding? Like, it just, yeah, I just kind of wish they didn't do it, but whatever.
No, but his love interest Michelle was like apparently like some kind of ghost. Because she was supposed to be dead, and she kept like cropping up like in multiple episodes to haunt him. Yeah, so there was a little bit of fantasy going on there, but I get it.
Magnum digression number 10.
Magnum digression 10.
So let's briskly moving along. I just want to talk about a couple of things that I wasn't nuts about. And it's really only like one thing. It's okay, the hospital scene, and it's also in episode 6 when the creature it first sort of takes like physical form outside the steel plant, right? It's in the hospital, and it gets right between Jonathan and Nancy, okay? And he's like, "Nancy, run!" And she starts running, and the thing chases her, and then she ends up in a room, and then she just stands there.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? Like, that's so not like her character, man. I mean, this is the girl that, like,
that's a good point.
So was a total nerd, and then all of a sudden we find out that she's like a total badass at shooting guns, and that becomes her thing, man. She starts like, she's shooting guns, fighting monsters, and then like there's this monster, which is not even the full size version of the Meatwad Voltron, and she's just standing there like, oh, okay, well, I guess I'll die now.
Yeah.
And like, I was like, really, dude?
Which is straight out of a horror movie where the damsel in distress stands there, but like you said, it doesn't fit her character.
It doesn't fit the character,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah,
So
that's totally fair.
while I applaud that as an 80s device, like it doesn't fit the character. And then to just to double down, like this is the other thing that just I couldn't believe was that Elle shows up, okay, throws it against the wall a couple times, then blows the thing through the window. It lands in the street. They all run down there, and then they all stand there and watch the thing crawl into the drain. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, and I don't mean like they ran out the exit door from the stairwell and the last bit of the creature was disappearing into the drain. I mean, they came down
Right.
and had time to have a smoke and watch the thing for 5 minutes. Then it crawled into the drain, and then you think like, oh, well, Elle was upstairs. That's why nothing happened. Nope, she's standing in the front of the group. I was like, this is dumb. This doesn't make any sense at all. So
That's fair.
those are my only two gripes. The only other thing I wanted to say, it's not really a negative, it's more of a positive, and that's that I didn't read any press about this season. I didn't read any tweets. I didn't read any bullshit on social media, but an article did come in front of my eyes that said the title of it was "What the hell happened to this show?" And I could see why people would write about that, but you know, the tone of it was very different. The kids are finally, you know, they're through in puberty, full on, man. They're full on teenagers now, you know. Like it was the most natural evolution of the show. And it's like, I guess I'm sort of saying this in the way that like people love to hate on The Matrix 2 and 3. And I always say when I hear that, and I think I've said it on this show, that was always the story that the Wachowski brothers were going to tell.
Wachowskis.
What?
Wachowskis.
That's the story they were going to tell. And you know what? People didn't like it. And it's like, you can't get pissed at them because you didn't like the direction they took their story.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I guess I'm sort of like preempting like haters out there, like, don't hate the show, man. Watch the season again. Like it's the most natural progression of how it could go. You can't work with child actors and not have them grow up. And it's like, it worked. Like it was crazy. They even added in all that great teenage stuff with aplomb, I might add, you know, and like they nailed it. They nailed all those points, man. You know, just the awkwardness of like starting to date girls and like, you know, being like dorky in your body and like just the whole thing, man, you know.
Hey man, I agree. But you know, haters are gonna hate.
Haters gonna hate.
Haters are gonna hate Jarhigo, but they can hate somewhere else, bro. Listen, there's one more thing I want to say because it echoes something you said in last week's episode when you were talking about Will in season 2 and how I believe you were saying how he wasn't very like a very fleshed out character. Like the whole first season was about like, where is Will? Right. And then the second season, it's like Will's around and you were like, I don't really think that they did enough with the character. It wasn't really well like a fleshed out character, a properly fleshed out character. Isn't that what you were saying?
Yeah.
And he just gets Peter tingles in season 3.
Right, exactly. And I really was feeling that in season 3. I was like, they're not doing enough with this character, man. And they didn't.
Well, I think Ben was, you know, frustrated with Will as a character in the last episode, and I imagined, Ben, that a lot of that frustration was also including season 3 that you weren't able to talk about because of spoilers and stuff. Is that the case?
That is the case. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I feel like if Will had been handled better in season 3, it probably would have, you know, wouldn't have been as frustrating for you because there wasn't a season 1 with Will. Like he wasn't there. Season 2, you're like, okay, he's kind of there and it's interesting. Season 3 could have been like a really interesting arc for him, but instead they spent all of their time on all the other characters, which is fine, whatever they made their choices. But the like Peter Tingle, him reaching for his neck 17 fucking times got a little old, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, he's like a bad trope, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, agreed. And it's unfortunate for the actor and it's unfortunate for the character.
It is. I think he's one of the most interesting characters, but it doesn't go anywhere. Like it just goes absolutely nowhere.
Well, he's one of the most interesting characters. We want to know more about him, but they don't tell us anything more about him.
Yeah, it's kind of a missed opportunity, I think, because everybody else is very has evolved pretty well, I think.
Well said.
You know, it's like, yeah, we know he's a fucking bomb ass DM, but you know, like that's about it. And he's like sort of just like a continual victim, or you know,
Will the Wise, baby.
He's kind of the only 2-dimensional character in the show at this stage.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I agree.
On the I think this is a good transition to close things up. Like on season 3, Kevin, the haters and stuff, like I agree, where I was a hater for like the first 5 minutes of the Russian plot, and then I was like, you know what, screw it, I'm just gonna go with this. And I think the reason why I was not a hater, but the reason why I was just kind of like, this is weird, why are you going in this direction, was because I kind of, like I mentioned last show, like thought it was going to be a trilogy of seasons instead of 4 or 5, and the obvious place for this to go for me from an interesting shadow monster was, you know, bringing Papa back and having the Papa 11, you know, conclusion with or without the Mind Flayer was where I expected the season to go. And so like I thought they were going to have like a really interesting, not necessarily serious, but really interesting, like Papa didn't die in season 1. He comes back, and like her father figure as the person that she needs to, you know, quote unquote defeat would have been a really interesting place for it to go. And then all of a sudden they're in a shopping mall with the Russians, and I was just kind of like, wait, what? Mm-hmm. So like I get people being frustrated, but I think that's, you know, if they don't go to the Papa thing in season 4 or whatever, I don't really know what's next, you know?
Right. And I feel like the whole thing about the other kids with powers was never really resolved.
I just delete that from my brain. Like, I don't get why they went there in that season.
Well, it sucks because the girl pulls her sleeve up like at the end of that little clip in the first episode of season 2, and it says 008 on it. And it's like, oh, wow. Okay. And then what? You know?
Yeah.
New Mutants? No.
And then there's an episode of just stupid shit where she makes spiders crawl around on people's faces, and you're just like, what the fuck? Like, that was just a waste of an episode. I really fucking hope they don't go crazy with the other kids in the next season. I'm not fucking interested. I wasn't interested in that episode. I think that was the one place where the entire show completely stumbled and fell on its face, was that episode.
I think I agree with you, Chad. Yeah.
Like, it was interesting for Elle to become a bit like more of a punk by the end of it, and it was a little bit interesting for Elle, but like,
right.
Fuck me, man. Like, I was just like, I do not care about these people.
Well, you know what? One thing's for sure, dude, is that you feel very strongly about that.
What was your reaction to that episode? It just completely was separate from the story altogether. Like, her going off and hanging out with her mom and stuff was perfectly interesting.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden she's hanging out with some random girl who's her sister, and then that entire story just, she leaves and the girl cries and then never hear from her again. Like, it just seemed like such a strange thing to do.
I agree, dude. Look, I'm not disagreeing with you. I totally agree with you. It's the kind of thing that leaves me wanting for more. I'm like, why would you put this in when all I want to do is know more about these kids? Come on. You know, it's like they should have just left it out. I mean, it's not, I'm going to finish watching season 2, and I don't know if it has any relevance or not, or any I can glean anyway. So I'll just leave it at that.
What do you guys think the next seasons are going to, like, where else could it go besides the Papa thing? I guess the other kids thing is an option.
You know what? I don't know, and that's the best. That's got me the most excited. Is that like we've got a hint that maybe Hopper's in a Russian prison, and
how
just
the fuck
that
does
alone.
Hopper get out of Russia, for Christ's sake?
I don't know, dude. But like, I don't have no idea where they're gonna go. So I like that I don't know.
11.
Did you just? You did.
I did.
Do we want to quickly talk about how he died in this episode?
Yeah, I think I monologued, and then it was crickets afterwards. So I you know what? To be honest, I died when I told a 45-minute story about a one-eyed fucking Buddhist monk.
Yeah,
that was when I died.
Okay,
I'm with that.
Parents.
Yeah,
yeah. I don't remember. I had mine indexed, and then it disappeared from my head.
I think actually in the last few episodes, Benny, you've died trying to remember how you died.
Yeah,
like this is the second or third time.
Yeah, that's it.
Very, very meta of me. But yes, hear that silence, folks.
Kev,
I was trying to have a smoke whilst getting free ice cream at Scoops Ahoy.
Scoops Ahoy.
And I was checking out my hair in the mirror on the wall, and the Mind Flayer just drilled one right through the center
That's
of me,
it.
dude. And that was it. I died.
I just had a vision, Kev, where in Australia we don't really do Halloween, but because the Yanks do Halloween so well, you and your lovely lady lumps need to dress up like Scoops Ahoy for Halloween this year.
Yeah.
Ooh, I like that.
I want to see you in a little blue sailor outfit with like pink lipstick on.
I would. My hair is not unlike Steve Harrington's right now.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's one little thing that I love about the show that I don't know if I'm picking up on something or whether I'm full of shit, but you know how Steve Harrington's got the Farrah Fawcett hairspray and it's kind of girly and that's a joke. I think in this season he started wearing lipstick and no one's supposed to notice, and it's to make him more attractive. But like if you look at some of the early episodes in the ice cream parlor, he's kind of got like a lipstick thing going, and I reckon Steve Harrington's putting lipstick on.
Interesting.
Which is the randomest quip ever, but
all right.
You need to have a little bit of lipstick, and you guys need to dress up like that for Halloween. I demand it.
Kev, I think for Halloween you should do the Scoops Ahoy thing, but you should have the busted up face.
Oh yeah.
Ooh.
That's good.
I like that, man.
Yeah, like black eye and the split lip and the
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, totally,
and
man.
rent a convertible Cadillac and drive it around.
Yeah.
The Todd father.
I love how Steve finally won his first fight in season 3 when he kicked that Russian guy's ass. That was awesome.
That was amazing. Dude, you won a fight. That was so fantastic. Can we throw one last anecdote in? The new Coke scene, that was really good.
Oh God, yes.
Oh man,
I love it. He's like, I love it, and then everyone's just like, you're crazy.
Totally.
What is wrong with you? Yeah.
So many little nuggets. There's too much to talk about, unfortunately. We'll have to save it for another time.
No, that was high blasphemy back in the 80s. Totally, man. I'm with the new Coke. Get out of here.
Get out of here. This is just kind of just a random thought, but when or do we talk about like interesting news items, like the Comic-Con panel that talked about like the new Thor and stuff?
Yeah, I read about that. I mean, I feel like we should be adding in like a nerd news section, man. Like, yeah, well, whatever. I mean, however you want to. Yeah,
we'll steal the MTV News jingle.
Yeah, there you go, dude. That'd be tight. I think we should do a nerd news thing, like, you know, hey, what's going on in the world? Like, you know, here it is. You know, Maybe each of us brings like one news item that we found, you know, intriguing. Because I read that whole thing about Natalie Portman being Thor. I was like, wow, okay.
Yeah, I was interested too. I kind of wouldn't be surprised if that was a misdirection bit of marketing too, but I also wouldn't be surprised if they actually went for it. I'd be kind of interested to see them go for it, but
I think they are going to go for it.
I think they're going for it, yeah, because I've independently read the same story, basically.
Well, my understanding was the only reason people are saying it wasn't that anything was said at Comic-Con other than she held Thor's hammer up in the air and kind of like threw a wink to the crowd. Like, I don't believe they actually spoke about it specifically. Did they?
I just read an article about the plot synopsis.
Same thing. Same here.
Yeah. The like 4 or 5 new things that they talked about.
Yeah, that's what I read.
Well, I mean, it sounded like they were going to kind of approach. You remember you were talking about when we talked about. I don't remember. I might have been in the Best of Marvel episode or whatever. But it looks like they're going to go for that story.
Yeah, with Waikiki doing it too, which is interesting.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. I think it's going to be good.
Yeah, I think it could be as risky a maneuver as the way they pushed the envelope with Iron Man in 2008 or whatever. They pushed the envelope with what's expected now with the new Thor. It might kind of unlock people being a bit more ballsy.
Well, this is really the ballsy part. I mean, this is sort of an interesting topic. This is the ballsy part of the whole MCU thing, because now they've run through 21 movies. You know, you can only get actors to contract for so many films, and in my experience, actors get bored. They get tired. Yeah, they get tired of playing the same thing. So now they're talking about, you know, sort of turning the reins over to a new set of Avengers, and it's going to be like Black Widow, Falcon America, you know, like female Thor, and like, you know, God knows who else. So, you know, hopefully Parker will be in there as well. Spider-Man will be in there too. So I don't know. I mean, we could sit around and talk about that and speculate on that for a while, but we're not going to.
Nah. I mean, the speculation is like, it's interesting to talk about the speculation, but it's just speculation. So, you know.
Yeah, exactly. It's not really a conversation.
I guess like between the potential for them being a bit more ballsy with, you know, scripts and or risks added to the, you know, the fact that they're going to do shows and have a bit more multimedia stuff, I think is interesting. Long form TV these days is so hit or miss. Like I was talking with Emma yesterday about it, and just like at a super high level, like since creators generally only get 1 or 2 seasons before they start their show, they haven't really thought through the overall story arc too much, and they end up getting pigeonholed into like every season having to make it bigger and bigger and bigger, and not having like a 5-season story already in their heads, you know, kind of like, you know, I mean, from what I've heard with Lost, where they just kind of like were making it up as they went along because they were under so much pressure.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. Lost.
But you put that versus Marvel's cinematic universe, where they planned a 20-movie thing. Like, they actually had the ability to make it more than just a 1-by-1 thing. And it's kind of an interesting problem that wasn't really around before, but now is quite evident, where if you don't have the chops to create on the fly, your shit's just going to be the same thing over and over again.
Yeah.
Yes.
Curious, Chad. Very interesting. Yes. Yeah, I agree with you. Anyway, for all of us here at the podcast, thanks for tuning in, folks.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
And that wraps up this week's episode. If you want to find links to the stuff we spoke about today, you can find them in the show notes in your podcast app of choice, or at the website ebd.fm/17. If you have any thoughts on the show or an idea for a topic, hit us up on Twitter at EBD Podcast. You can find me at Molverine on Twitter. That's MOHLVERINE. Chad is at Chad Normal on Twitter. Ben is at Jarhigo on Twitter. That's JARHEEGO. And if you like the show, please recommend us to a friend. Thanks, and so long. Exactly.
So cheers, everyone.
And to talk like, yeah, cheers. I'll drink to that if I was drinking. And I'll also drink to midi-chlorians. I got to digress for 1 second because Ben, I thought came flying into my head at about warp 9 this week. I'm driving down the road, working my driving job, and all of a sudden I start going, Jamie, come on, Jamie, you're full of midi-chlorians. Come on. Go. What about the midi-chlorians?
Jamie, you're my special boy.
Yeah.
You're packed with midi-chlorians.
Yeah, that's it, dude.
What is that from?
You're packed with midi-chlorians. It was
the
sort
same,
of... Go ahead,
same
Ben.
kid that was in the same kid that was in Jingle All the Way. Playing Arnold's son is the same kid that played young Anakin.
Oh, right.
And yeah, so
we made a new movie and we call it Jingle All the Phantom Menace. And it stars Jamie, and it stars Jamie as Anakin, and then Arnold.
Put that cookie down.
Dude, did you guys, speaking of young actors, did you guys hear that Edward Furlong's coming back for the new Terminator?
Oh my God. Wow.
He's probably like a graybeard now.
They cannot, they're just, I don't know, I feel like they're just digging themselves into a hole deeper and deeper.
Dude, he's in the fucking trailer. You can see it. He does have a fucking gray beard. It's hilarious.
Really? I love how pissed off you are about this new movie, Kev.
I am pissed about it.
We have to do a show on it now because of how like frustrated you are.
I don't really, you know what is, I'm all for the film and for Furlong being in it, as long as there's a section in some part of the film Arnold is talking about midi-chlorians.
Okay.
That's my compromise.
I thought you were going to say as long as there's like a scene where he's like teaching Arnold to say like stupid kid shit and hop on one leg. And
yeah, And he's like 40 now.
Yeah.
Or whatever, 35 with a gray beard.
He's like, you can't kill people.
Let me tell you about midi-chlorians. I already know about midi-chlorians.
Dude, I love it. We're writing the movie right now. This is
Exactly.
just so everybody knows. We are actually in charge of writing the new Terminator movie, and this is the plot line right here.
Writing the film.
Breaking news.
You thought you knew, but you didn't know, but you know. We are writing the film.
It's almost like every episode we have a Arnold segment. Like it's become a segment in the show.
We should just have Arnold as a special guest,
The fourth co-host.